Yes, I do. I do. Seemed incredibly honest and disturbed by what had happened. But that's why we went all the way to the Pentagon. I mean, because this is happening again and again at Fort Hood. And the question was very simple: how could all this alleged harassment, these deaths, these disappearances happen in a place where the soldiers are supposed to feel the safest, within the gates of a U.S. military installation? So we interviewed not only Secretary McCarthy, but also the Undersecretary of the Army and a Major General with the Army's Criminal Investigation Division. In the end, McCarthy told me, we have to find answers. We will hold people accountable. There will be people outside of the military who will be looking at these cases. There is still one suspect, as you know, jailed in connection with the case. Cecily Aguilar, Specialist Robinson's girlfriend, has been charged not with murder, but with helping dispose of Vanessa's body. She has pleaded not guilty and is not convicted, but she is scheduled to stand trial, and maybe she will shed some light on the case. Mm-hmm. She thinks that somehow he convinced her to do something that she would have never done on her own. The biggest break, I think, that we were able to discover that the military shared with us is that initially the last man who saw Vanessa alive had an alibi for when he was questioned about her disappearance. He said she came into his arms room and then left. Well, later, investigators were able to find out that witnesses saw this man, Sergeant Aaron Robinson, coming out of his arms room, pulling a large tough box, loading it into his car, and then driving away. It's believed that Vanessa's body was in that box. But that delayed them in getting, to question him. Mm-hmm. Well, he wasn't a suspect early on. I mean, they were looking at him, but again, he had an alibi. The fact is, it was very disturbing that once they did zero in on him, once were able to find out that his, phone had pinged at a place where they later found Vanessa's body, they finally, assigned an unarmed escort to him. But he was able to run past him. Somehow he obtained a weapon. How did he do that? And as you know, he wound up, there in Killeen, surrounded by the police. He pointed at a Killeen police officer and then pointed the gun at himself and killed himself. So a lot of this is very disturbing. And even the Secretary of the Army says, we got to get to the bottom of this. People will be held accountable. Mm. It's one of the most important stories, I think, given what's happening at that base, because it's bigger than just Vanessa Guillen. And what's particularly touching to me is that it's a story of one family's persistence, the Guillens, their dogged and heart-wrenching determination to find answers. The sad thing, the tragic thing beyond the death of their daughter is that the main suspect in this case winds up killing himself. So the Guillen family will never know why their daughter was killed. Robinson will never go to trial. I even asked Secretary McCarthy tonight, and you'll see it on 2020, will there ever be justice for Vanessa Guillen? His answer was, I just don't know. No. Hmm. Yeah, they are launching their own, the Congress is launching its own investigation into the series of deaths. That probe is going to look into whether the recent tragedies may be symptomatic of a greater problem of underlying leadership, problems with discipline and morale deficiencies at Fort Hood and throughout the chain of command. That those committees are in Congress. There's also a separate and independent review of the command climate and the culture at Fort Hood. 5 civilians are going to be conducting that review, and they're expected to present their findings in late October. Yeah. Mhm. Right. Gregory Morales. Uh-huh. Mhm. No doubt that it was because of the attention that Vanessa's case got, thanks to her mother and her sisters, those passionate cries for justice. Had it not been for all that attention, the remains of Gregory Morales, the other soldier who had been missing and thought had gone AWOL and is believed to have been a deserter, they may not have found his remains. There's so many problems with not only sexual harassment, sexual abuse, the deaths, of course, the disappearances, child, pornography rings, prostitution rings. It's hard to decide which you attack first. I mean, the fact is, this keeps happening again and again. So I don't know that there's any one thing that you would strike at first. It's more as the congressional investigators are saying themselves, it's more symptomatic, I believe, of a greater problem that exists. And that's why the changes that have been made have been made. They've named a 4-star general, as you know, John Murray, to head an in-depth investigation into the chain of command. The top general there, Scott Eflin, the major general, is being moved to another assignment at the post. He will no longer receive that prestigious job of commanding an army division. So I think all of these things, I get the sense that at least the Secretary of the Army is committed to making changes. That he's trying to. He said he's there. He wants the Guillen family to reach out to him personally if they feel like they're ready to do that. The Guillen family is still distraught. As you know, as I mentioned, they will never get answers as to why their daughter was killed, and they're still asking people not join the military because of what's happened to their daughter, I guess, unless they get further answers. Clearly, the military, who relies on a lot of Hispanic and African American soldiers in their ranks, uh, finds that important. Yeah, that was just last month. Yes, we will touch upon that. He had complained about sexual abuse at the base. Um, Suddenly, he leaves the clinic where he was being treated, and later is found hanging from a tree. There are still so many unanswered questions with that case, but why you have to ask yourself, why wasn't more attention paid and more protection afforded him before if indeed he killed himself before he did that. There's so many unanswered questions that it's hard to come upon just one. We can only hope that the Robinson's girlfriend, Cecily Aguilar, gives some answers. As you know, she is being held in connection with the case. She's not charged with murder. She is charged with helping dispose of Vanessa's body. She has pleaded not guilty. She's not convicted. Set to stand trial at some point. We hope that maybe then she can shed some light, and maybe some answers will be coming from her. I think they'll walk away, impressed with one family's commitment to getting justice. You cannot help but turn away from the emotional Gloria Guillen, Vanessa's mother, who calls herself Mama Guillen now because so many other soldiers, she said, have reached out to her through this whole I Am Vanessa Guillen campaign. Uh, I think, if anything, we will learn how important it is not to give up and to keep pushing for answers, even when you're hitting yourselves at times against a concrete wall. Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.